obviously taken from my presentation. During that time, there was only allotted kind of less than like about 15 minutes or so for the demonstration. I really think it warrants kind of a bit more. So I'm going to kind of take my time and go through a workflow here. I did want to just go over a few slides and didn't want to go through the whole presentation. I want to kind of cover a few things here first. Okay, so how to manage data like code, right? This is the whole concept of infrastructure as code. And what we're kind of talking about here is, if you are familiar with infrastructure as code, it's just a small plug. I did do a podcast on Network Collective with Damien Garros as well on the topic, infrastructure as code. Please look that up as well. But okay, with Git, what does Git provide you, right? And it provides you the ability to kind of version data in such a way that you can know what the data looked like at any point in time. You can to know who put that information in, right? So Git gives you things like git blame, right? Provides the ability to populate data in a staging area without modifying the production. And that's kind of huge, right? It's just like different concept. So it's like you take the entire the entire code base and say, okay, run a battery of tests on all this against this one branch, in Git terminology, Git branch, right? And you can do everything within there. All the Git services, right? In the last decade, GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, all these services kind of come up with like really good native integrations to continuous integration tools. And there's decentralized storage of data. What do you get from a database, right? And it has kind of ACID-based transaction with the data. There's a native querying language, so you could filter and get and do whatever you need to do, like kind of relate data, all this fun stuff. And it provides schema enforcement of the data, which is actually kind of which you can of course bolt on and other mechanisms within various different platforms, including a thing like YAML files and Git. Right? And really provides you the ability to scale to large data sets. Yes, of course, with Git you can kind of endlessly create YAML files or TOML files or JSON files, whatever the data structure is. But it obviously functionally that would of course break down over time. So what if we combine them into one, right? And that's what the folks at created Dolt and Dolt are trying to do. They're trying to combine them, and that's what this entire presentation is built on. Or this prior demonstration, I should say, is built on. So, Dolt in its current format is exactly what you said about Git, right? Trying to combine all those Git plus MySQL. They're looking to support 100% Git operation, 100% of MySQL operations. They're having to invent things to do so, right? And if you really think about it, it's kind of like three things they're having to take on, right? They're trying to take on the technology, akin to Git, trying to take on the technology, akin to GitHub, right? And then all of the tooling around it that goes around it, right? So far, they're supporting 90% Git operations, 93% of MySQL operations. The founder, Tim, has kind of a lot more detail on that. I don't call it right now, so I'm just going to continue on here. All right. Okay, so this is kind of what I say. I'll use air quotes here to say what traditional infrastructure as code design with YAML looks like, right? So you make a change to your Git and it publishes a webhook and it forces some, or it causes some continuous integration, automation to kind of happen, right? And then if we juxtapose that to what it's going to look like in this demonstration, it's pretty much the same here, right? It's primarily the same. Now, two big caveats, right? So one is this replication happening here between the Netbox instance. And two, because Netbox is based on Postgres dialect, and MySQL and Dolt is based on the MySQL dialect, there had to actually be built a synchronization process between those two. That leverages their Dolt Pi implementation to do so, and SQL can be under the hood if you're so inclined to know such information. All right, so we'll evaluate real quickly with the workflow. We're going to go in depth in this, what that kind of looks like. While we give the demonstration, we'll take you step by step and refer back to this diagram, basically. So the first thing that happens is we replicate the entire instance of NetBox to a completely new instance, along with all the data that goes with it. Both the Postgres and Dolt data store gets copied over, and like I said, the NetBox instance as well. There's that synchronization process that happens in step 2 here, which pushes to Dolt Hub. That creates a webhook, which gets sent to your CI tooling, and then you could view and create pull requests in Dolt Hub. This is an actual screenshot, kind of show you, and you'll see it during the demonstration. Once the process is deemed okay, you push the configuration back up to the Dolt Hub, and then push everything back to the production instance. Right, this entire thing is kind of orchestrated via Jenkins, but it doesn't matter which CI platform it is. It's just that there is a CI platform. The tool choice here just happens to be Jenkins. Okay, so with that, I will jump into the demonstration. Oh, sorry about that. Okay, so what you'll see in here on my right side is I will follow you along with the workflow each step of the way as we're going. All right, so I'm going to log in. And this is, by and large, just like if you're familiar with NetBox, this is just like any other NetBox instance. There is a few things to note here, right? So the first thing is to kind of indicate what branch you're on. If you're a master branch, you'll just see this master. The next thing to notice is that we actually don't have, and it's kind of hard to say, but when we juxtapose it against the branch instance, there's no icons here to add, edit, or anything to that effect. Right? So, all right. So we're going to go and we have this, in this demonstration, we have this change we want to fulfill, right? And so in order to do so, I want to go ahead and edit some objects here, some address objects. Unfortunately, again, I don't only have read-only capabilities here. So what do I have to do? All right, so in this new world, I need to add a branch. So I'm going to create a branch for CM change management. Let's say 1650, and we'll create this here. Okay, so what's happening in the background here? I kind of talked about it before. So in order to orchestrate this, the plugin was built to kind of copy itself, right? NetBox to copy itself, basically. So it copies all the packaging or all the plugins and all of the core code, and then copies over to another folder, creates an entire new instantiation of NetBox to do so, right? Additionally, copied over the .dolt directory, which is kind of again akin to the Git world. You have the .git directory. Again, as you're probably hearing, the similarities are there for a reason and on purpose, right? So we copy that entire instance over. Then we do the Dolt sync, which does the dialect translation. So MySQL to Postgres, because again, Dolt is based on MySQL and NetBox is based on Postgres. So something needs to do that translation for you. As soon as that happens, it gets committed up to Dolt Hub. There's a synchronization process to push it up to Dolt Hub. And then back here, you see you're given a few of these links here. And one is to that second instance of NetBox, and the other is to Dolt Hub itself. And we'll just take a quick pit stop here to see what kind of Dolt Hub looks like. Okay, great. And Dolt Hub, let's go quickly now. I'll just say, all right, we'll look at devices, and it gives you access, and you can see all the devices kind of listed out here. And they're actually, you can actually create pull requests right within Dolt. There's a lot of great features, but I'll pause there before kind of geeking out any further on Dolt Hub itself and get back to the demonstration. All right, so now as you see, we got a new instance, and you can tell by the change in port numbers, right? A random generated port was provided. And then also in glaring red letters, we tell you what branch you're on. You're currently on this 1650, and again, that's what we call the branch. Now, also what you notice is you have the icons now, right? And what we did was we orchestrated during that translation, that replication process. We actually changed the modification for users. Because listen, if you're on non-production data, I don't really care what you do with it. Go to tab. You're going to have to go through the entire CI workflow in order to get merged into master anyway. So go to town and do what you need to do, right? So again, just to kind of show that, to highlight the differences, here we do not have, on the master branch, we do not have access to any edit functionality, but on the CM 1650 branch, change management 1650 branch, we do. All right, so part of this change management, what we want to do is 3 kind of actions here. We'll follow in the CRUD. We'll do the create, update, and delete actions here, just to show you what they look like kind of initially within the UI. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is within the Kenobi VIP, we're going to remove the VRF. That actually didn't make sense. Why would it be in a management VRF? And kind of more formalize the description here. And go ahead and commit that. Right, I'm going to pause there. Go back to IP addresses, and we see this is instantly updated. Now, interestingly enough, if we go back to the master branch, it has not been updated, right? This probably should be as expected. It's entire new replicated instance. It's nothing to do with it, different databases, all that other fun stuff. Okay, so that's one action. The second action is I'm going to delete the Calrissian dip and confirm that. Great. And then I'm going to add an additional dip here for apologies. Copy and paste it in and modify for the Skywalker instance. Now, one thing that's very relevant to this demonstration is updating the role. We'll go through that right now. And we will add the Skywalker DNS name and just say Knights. Okay, awesome. Now you'll notice here there's not an FQDN. And that's that's not a purpose for demonstration. For demonstration to show when CI tests fail, and we'll review that as we go through. Okay, great. So now that was saved, and again to recap, if I go into the branch, refresh here at Kenobi, no Calrissian, and I do have Skywalker, and then refresh on master, none of those changes have happened. Okay. Great. So, but now what we need to do, we need to, in order to kind of commit this up, we need to synchronize this. Actually, as I'm just realizing this, this part of this SQL synchronization process doesn't happen until now. Well, I guess it happens both times, if I'll be honest, right? But really what we care is when the data merges from the different from the master branch to the feature branch. So I'm going to say updates made for CM 1650. Go ahead and hit here. Again, it is in fact doing exactly what I kind of discussed before, which is a synchronization process from the dialect. Then once again, up to the hub. And at that point, we will kind of refresh and review what the branch looks like in Dolt. Okay, so we're going to refresh. We've already done a quick overview of what the UI looks like. So we'll skip that. What we really want to know is, in the commit log, did this happen? Did this get pushed? And sure enough, it did. Right? So updates made for CM 1650. Awesome. So we know this is actually happening in real time. 35, 36 seconds ago. So we'll now create a pull request just the same way you would in GitHub. You do so in Dolt. Oh, sorry, that makes sense. To branch master from branch, my apologies. I had that reversed, so that makes sense. So again, probably similar update for CM 1650. Okay. And we will create this pull request, and it'll bring us to the pull request form. Just to reiterate, very similar to what you expect in Git. Okay, now when we go to the diff, right, you're not seeing like kind of standard code. You're seeing kind of Dolt version of this, and what we'll notice is there's kind of 3 different flavors here, right? So these white background lines, they indicate updates, right? So last updated, really the things that we changed specifically was we modified Jedi Council to Jedi High Council and updated the BRF. Right? So that's indicated by the white background. It shows you the plus or minus, what's new, what's the old and what's been replaced with. The red background lines are what's been removed. So again, we removed the Calrissian DNS entry, and we added the bit for Skywalker. Okay, so great. What happened here is Dolt Hub sent a webhook to my Jenkins instance and created this test. However, very unsurprisingly, it failed, but let's review why, of course. So as always, go to the bottom, see what happens, says running tests. And it's verifying that each one of these has a proper FQDN. And of course, to no surprise, it does not, and the assertion error tells you as much. 10.15, Skywalker, which does not have an FQDN of ntc.com. Now, this is a very simple test for a very simple, demonstration, right? Let's just kind of review some data. But this is really where the beauty is this point, right? I sometimes call this purgatory, or probably a staging area, right? So you have this ability to break off, branch off, and do whatever you want. If you want to model an entire network, if you want to test every data point, whatever those capabilities are, you have this entry point. That's really what kind of lacks in natively within databases to kind of form. You could build some, business logic on top of it to get very similar, capabilities, but there's nothing kind of out there that provides this these capabilities natively. Right? And so Dolt actually provides its own server, its own Dolt server, which is based again based on the MySQL dialect, and it's going to provides capabilities to do things like say run this query against this branch, or run this query against master branch, and you can see the result, and then you could diff them, and you could diff between different commits and branches and all that other stuff, right? So it's doing everything that Git did for code, but it's doing it for databases, and it's trying to keep up with all the database constructs as well. So any kind of queries or inserts or whatever operations you do in data to do it as well. Okay, so back to the demo. Let's get this test passing again. So if we go back, we should know what to do. We're on the right branch. Go back to Skywalker, and it's ntc.com that we need to create the FQDN as. So .ntc.com. Make that update, and we will once again synchronize this. Say fix test, and that will go. And again, as we're showing here, we're resyncing the feature branch to Dolt Hub. Jenkins will, of course, rerun the job. Go here, see, you should be able to see it near real time as the webhook comes in. This should change. Awesome. You can see this job running in real time, and we will go. No, okay. I must have put them the wrong way there. Okay, so it's still running. It actually just passed this part of it. Okay. So now we have, in this demo, we have kind of a two-pronged gating operation. So Dolt does not currently support removals in here, so we kind of orchestrated that process. So the way it works is when I type approve here, it will orchestrate the fact that it reaches out, ensures that there's a comment that's approved, grabs the user, and put that in there, and puts that information into so for control purposes, we're going back to within Jenkins or so, but you're not actually going to go and make, approve that, and do that second approval. I'm actually going to switch gears here for a second. And what I want to do is rerun that same process fairly quickly to show that it is not just copying one database to another. That's not what we're doing. We're really keep taking Git constructs and building them. So you can have multiple branches the same way you go to any open source project. There's a dozen or however many open pull requests out there, and they all have different branches, and they can all be merged, as long as, of course, there's not a merge conflict. So we're going to take this other, we'll call it 1670 for another change request that came after, but had to be updated. So in an incognito, I logged in as Tim, again, pay homage to the founder of the Dolt, who actually helped tremendously with this presentation, and did co-present it with me at Interrupt as well. Actually, a lot of work, to get this up, to get this demo ready. So there's actually features that weren't there. He was kind enough to kind of build them in. He changed his timelines and so forth. Okay, now what's actually interesting too here is you can see now we have more branches, right? You can see them, piling up. Here, but again, we will go to this this CM 1670, and let's be a bit quicker here, because you guys kind of getting the point by now. So we'll say that let's change the corporation status on smugglers from LLC to incorporated, and let's publish that back. Status on smugglers. Okay. So now it's going to go through, and then what we're going to do here is we're actually going to approve. We will create this on a pull request and approve it first. So if we go to branch itself, well, that's not going to work because I'm not in here. So I have to take this out of my browser. Two branches, right this time, but master, 1670. Pull request, and do it straight up here, which is just line is approved. Okay. Great. Okay, so now, just so if you're tracking here, this is the second branch we created. This is the first one. So in theory, I could merge them in any order. Now, to demonstrate, I think the better demonstration here is to show that the one that was put in afterwards and did in fact was not effective. Right? So if we kind of go through the different versions, the different branches we have here, let's go to the one branch LLC is still there, but Skywalker was created as an example. The master is not been changed since the start of the demonstration. Smuggler Dolt is there. Nobody still, that accounts or not, my console, so we'll do that. And finally, within the 1670 branch, we have the updated instance. So we'll reading them out. Again, I have two branches. This is the smugglers. The second one first. So go ahead and okay, see. Now what's going to happen here is okay. So Jenkins is going to orchestrate and rerun all tests. Then it's going to orchestrate all the specifically. It is going to update and insert commands into the function database, and it's going to merge the branch into Dolt. So the Dolt instance and the Dolt itself. Okay, merging, running. You can see that's a comparison. And you can see here what it's actually set into it. And Dolt provides you a little bit more list. You can see that. Have more clean readable table view. So Dolt provides you different views, SQL, with view, as well as a table. And we can see here, and I can fully assure you that this is in fact coming from the pull request. In fact, that knows just me, but I can show you that's what from there. Okay. So now, if we go back to this update smugglers, refresh, we will see that was in fact merged, right? So since it's merged on the local instance and published up, Dolt understands that this is merged and communicates as such. Now, so finally, this has not changed as of yet here. Now the data has changed here. When we refresh, we will see that in fact smugglers did just change. The description changed. It's awesome. So we actually successfully merged using Dolt as the kind of the back-end engine and Jenkins to orchestrate this. We actually merged the branch, right? And so the final thing is going to be to merge the first branch we had and kind of have it all come together to get all of your data the way it would in real life, right? Because you're not going to be able to orchestrate one change at a time. One change may start and not finish and be completed until the next one is. So this is kind of demonstrating the process, and again, you're going to get kind of the same type of view, of course, different data because you're merging different things. So you're getting the few pieces of information, and what you see is maybe a few things to kind of note here. Is we made two changes to Skywalker, but it understands the difference. Dolt understands the difference between commits. So when you say to compare from this branch to master branch, it understands the commit difference. It says, just give me the delta for it, right? And so Dolt doesn't just orchestrate changes you made. Dolt understands the SQL statements you created, and then intelligently builds all this other kind of components, everything if and the actual correct SQL statements that go on. Okay. So it's merging and running here. So in a second or two, we should refresh this. Okay, yep. It was merged locally. Pushed up. Awesome. Pushed up. Now we're going to go to successfully merged. Awesome. And the final big review here is all the data should be in place. So reason will be removed. So that accounts will be put in, and customer will save that, and it's not a and of course it does, right? So that brings us back to the beginning, right? And so this can kind of happen in perpetuity. This is the same way you manage code, you manage to integrate CI systems, you can start beginning to do things. So you may be asking yourself, like how real is this, right? This is all working. There's definitely some workflow clunkiness and so forth. In order to kind of build an integrated solution, you kind of much higher barrier to entry. But this is kind of capable. There's a few caveats and getting details. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Tim. Who's building out, kind of one of the founders of the company that's building Dolt and Dolt Hub, or myself. But there's a tremendous amount of technology that went into building all this. There is of course, as you probably noticed, there's some clunkiness for having a non-integrated solution. The workflow was kind of had to be developed and figured out. Whereas if we just use native constructs, change the database out, but again, that would take a lot, and probably not realistic in the short term. But I know I personally thought this is awesome. This is cool. This is kind of like this has been a passion project of mine. It's something I've been thinking about for a few years. Only really had a few people to talk about, and once I kind of heard about what we've been doing that with Dolt and Dolt Hub, I was pretty stoked and reached out, and they were kind enough to grant me an audience with them. Like I said, build features. They built the webhook feature. They built a synchronization feature to synchronize from Postgres to MySQL, and it's been honestly a great experience. But again, I go back to really cool tech, and I'm super excited. What this can mean, right? I think this is a problem that most people within the network automation most people in the network automation journey aren't even at yet, and I like to think they were kind of leading that range, kind of being on the bleeding edge of that conversation, right? I've only had a few conversations with people outside of let's say network to code. They're kind of doing like have spent some time kind of think about looking at solutions and so forth. So, but anyway, I'm super excited and pumped as it probably comes off. But hope you enjoy this demonstration. Reach out to me if you have anything. Thanks for your time.